Welcome to the Living Art Podcast, a space where expression meets healing. I'm your host, Jessie, an expressive healer, artist, and guide. Here, we get honest about the behind the scenes of becoming, the creation, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and the real work that we do that shapes us into who we are. So let's get into it. Thank you so much for being here with me today on the first episode of the Living Art Podcast. I can't even believe that we're here right now. I've been in the works of thinking and dreaming about doing this and using my voice and sharing and all that for so much time now. You might notice I sound a little sick, and I was like, you know what? Something is trying to shut my voice down right now. It's not happening. My God doesn't believe in that. So I'm here. I'm not the best that I could be, but I'm here anyway. And that's a big part of why I wanted to do this today, is that there are so many times when we are like, there's tomorrow. I'll do it then. Maybe this time. I'll do it another. No, it's a wrap on that. We're over it. Today is the day after Thanksgiving that I'm recording this right now. And it's like, I keep thinking about how I want to go into 2026 and how the year is already over. You know what I mean? We have Halloween, great. We have Thanksgiving, great. Then it's the holidays. Then it's the new year already, right? And we're like, what are we going to do? So I think that there's no better time than now to start something new. If that's something that you've been interested in, I'm here for it with you. I wanted to get on today and kind of lay out some groundwork, maybe for lack of a better term, of what I want to do in this space. I'm very fortunate in that I've had a community behind me pretty much my entire time on social media. I'm 24 years old, maybe been on, social media probably since I was 10, 11, when Instagram dropped and all that and Snapchat and everything. And, I've been in it for a minute and I've had a following, and I've never really done anything where I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing for my people. And at the time of life where I am for myself right now, I'm almost done with a master's degree in clinical art therapy and counseling. I am interning full-time at a senior center for folks with dementia. It's like respite care. I love what I do. I'm hoping once I graduate that I'll end up in maybe a geriatric inpatient psychiatric facility. You know what I mean? Wherever I end up, great. I have big things coming with my favorite local metaphysical shop soon. That should be fantastic. And excuse me, anyone that knows me knows that I am a clairaudient intuitive. I've heard spirit all my life. And I've been blessed with visions and all that sort of thing. And that was never something that was made to belittle me growing up. My family, I come from Catholics, I come from Catholic witches. One of my great grandmothers way down the line was on trial in Salem and survived. And now I'm here doing God's work and communicating and being able to hold space for everyone to heal in ways that are constructive and working for them. So I really want this to be for all of us. I'm fortunate in that I have a voice and I'm using it, whether it's functioning the way it's supposed to or not. We'll get into the spiritual warfare of people trying to shut us the fuck up another time. But, coming here when we're fighting demons, when we are, dealing with these family members that are pretend family, even though we're blood to that, you know what I mean? There are those relationships that we're put in to be taught a lesson. And sometimes we are blinded by being human. We don't get to connect to a higher version of ourselves. That's no, you don't actually have to deal with that. No, you actually have the free will to make that choice. That's why you're a person. I like to bring it down to a very, layman's terms level. Think about, let's say a squirrel, right? The squirrel goes, gets its little nuts. That's what it has to do. Maybe it has a little squirrel family that's going home to feed and do whatever it's doing, right? And it's just action based. The squirrel is just going through its little life, doing what it has to do. And maybe that's it, right? The squirrel knows that it has to feed whatever, and it knows that it has to sleep, shit, do whatever it's got to do, right? But there aren't really choices in that for a squirrel. Maybe there are. I just dropped my pencil, but maybe there are, and good on the squirrel if they get to choose and do. I'm not a squirrel. I wouldn't know, but I respect the squirrel for what it's got to do. Me as a human being, I go about my life and I am granted every opportunity that I am willing to take. Every opportunity that I am willing to take is mine, period. That's what being a person is. Being a person is seeing someone struggling and acknowledging that they're having an experience that's different from yours and saying, yeah, I'm going to help you, or knowing that you're struggling and saying, and like, I don't mean to bring it to a struggle dynamic as an example, but like, it's a pretty pertinent example, in my opinion, that human beings are made to have these, we can call them efforts that you have to like push through and exert yourself and transmute your being into these different things that other animals don't have that. You know what I mean? Like, we are here for a purpose. Each and every single one of us are enmeshed in this spiritual dynamic that you go and you see that person on the street and they look like they're having a good, having a bad day, and you're doing all right, and like, even if you're having a shit day too, like, you smile at that person on the street, you don't know if they were going home and killing themselves that day. And I hate to bring it to that, but that's the reality of this space. That's the reality of this space. You don't know what anyone besides you is going through. And sometimes you can't even check in with yourself to know where you are. So imagine what life is for that person. Imagine what it takes when you flip off that person that's on their last leg. You know what I mean? When you're driving and you're having a good time, maybe that person just really had to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, it can be that simple if you let it be that simple. You are going through your life, and you don't have to just go through your life. This shouldn't be a just going through the motions experience. This is your life. You have X amount of years left. You don't know how long you have. God forbid tomorrow something happens and that's a wrap. Are you comfortable with all the shit that you've done? Seriously. Because if you can't look back with gratitude and be like, you know what? Yeah, like, I did the best that I could do. Or being able to look back at your younger self and be like, yeah, they did all they could, or they did what they knew that they had. Because that's a big part of the work that I'm doing with all my clients and people of my community as well. Forgiving your younger self for only doing the best that they knew what they could do with the tools that they had. Does that make sense? You go about your life as a child with whatever opportunities or lack thereof you're provided, right? You have this set of cards. You've never even seen cards before, so you're just playing to play, right? You're playing to play. And sometimes things come in and fuck the game up, right? Does that mean you stopped playing? Does that mean you completely scrapped the game and said, I'm never going back? Does that mean you went and found a new game? Did you start making your own pieces? These are all things that we can kind of learn to integrate as adults that are going to set us up for the rest of our life. Or when we are able to mend with the ideas that child us, whoever you are, was given this deck, right? And whatever happened, happened. Child version of you did what they knew, did what they felt was safe, did what they knew was going to get them to the next moment, nonetheless, the next day. Sometimes we're in really, really bad situations. I'm not even going to call it a situation, right? Because we've all been there, and some are worse than others, right? But that doesn't take away that's something that's on a scale of 1 to 10, something that is a 10 and so incredibly traumatic and detrimental to my being could be a 3 on your scale. That doesn't mean that it's not a 10 for me and that your 3 is not valid, and vice versa. We need to be in a space of considering how all of this comes to be, okay? But back to this idea of forgiving our child selves, right? We are given a certain set of tools. These are our foundations. How we lay the foundation, anyone that knows anything even remotely about building something, right? You have the foundation. And if the foundation is shit, anything that comes on top of it is gonna fucking break or get screwy or whatever the situation is, right? It depends on what material, but then it's like what materials you do make a difference, what things, if you can repair that foundation, you can build whatever you desire, right? So now take this to now, right? So you've been living, and maybe you've been doing the work, the shadow work, and, looking at your inner personas and the self that you give to other people and the self that you meet yourself with when there's no one else there, right? And then maybe there's another version of you that still likes to bark at you sometimes and will, continue to input things where it doesn't really make sense because the situations that you're going through, these parts of you are going at you for whatever's happening. and it's not really relevant, but you can't shut this up. So you listen to that because it gets you by, right? You're surviving. It doesn't have to be like that, babe. It doesn't have to be like that. So that's a big part of what I would like this space to be is how are we going to work through all of our parts and hearing how we're going to grow and change and transmute and build the best version of yourself. That's what I'm here for. I'm the vessel of that information and how I did it and continue to do it every day because it is a conscious choice. It's a conscious choice. I like to think of it, in terms of addiction. I feel like that's something that many people, if you haven't experienced it personally, you may know someone or have heard of someone. So you kind of have an understanding of that, right? It's a disease. I don't care what anybody says. You are having an experience where there is something that you are dependent on, and you have to fight yourself every single day. Every day is a choice. Substitute that addiction now with whatever task that you have to do that maintains yourself. Every single day, it's a choice. I wake up and I choose me. It's not easy every single day, and it's not supposed to be. We're in a society that shapes us. If you're not moving this way, if you're not doing this, if you don't have this much money, if you don't drive this kind of car, if you don't have this kind of family in this kind of house in this kind of area, you're fucked up. No, you're not. You're an individual. You're an individual with a unique experience that's given to you by the Most High so that you can be the individual that makes a change, that does the thing, that breaks the cycle, that kills the generational trauma. All right? This is your journey independently on purpose. That's a big deal. Don't toss it because you don't know what to do. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to know. You find someone or something or look inward. That's the biggest thing you can do. When you have no one, you always have you. Always. Unless you give up on yourself and then you're at zero. But either way, you always have that inner conscience. You always have younger you to call on. You always have your future. Like, there are so many different versions of self that you can rely on when you think you have no one. Baby, like, sit on that for a second because it's a big deal. All right. So I feel like that's probably a good introduction for what I'm looking to do here. But I just wanted to get on and first and foremost use my voice because something is in the on me right now. And no, not today, not ever. It was never acceptable. My God doesn't play like that. My guides don't play like that. So you're going to get on and try to quiet silence me? I don't fucking think so. I don't know who you thought I was or who you think you are to do that to me. Time out, bitch. All right. That's neither here nor there. That's my story right now. Right. But let me be the example of going and doing it anyway. Let me be for you what you can do for you. I live my life and I have clients. I have of all different kinds. I have family that I, am with. I have so many different relationships that require me to stand in my power. If nothing else, I know that I have myself. And when I wake up and choose me every day, the universe and everything in it has no choice but to take me as I am. How they receive me is between them and whoever they pray to or don't. That's not my problem, and it's not my business. I could give a shit, and I don't. Because I know in my heart of hearts, I'm moving the way I need to. I'm maintaining my responsibilities. I love myself more than anything. I have a family that cares about me because I care about them. I have all of these things that are gifts from God that I get to see every single day. And I get to look back and say, wow, I busted my ass. Wow, I graduated with a 4. Like all of these things. I have a degree. I have a roof over my head. I have all of these things and I'm still going. Thank you, affirmation from the train. I don't know if you can hear that. But, like all of these things that I have are because of me. They're because of me and the spaces that I've surrounded myself in and the love that I've continued to give, even when I wasn't receiving, even when I didn't know it was there. because I had it for me, and I knew how important it was for whoever I was with. In my work, in my home, in my relationships, in my career, like in all of these areas of your life, love is everything. I have love and fear on my knuckles, and then I recently added to say love all and fear none. This love and fear concept is something that I've discovered they're the same thing, but one is positive and one is negative, hypothetically, right? So stay with me. Love is the purest, most divine, most I'm going to push you forward. Fear is the same difference, but there's a little hesitation to it. There's a little discomfort to it. There's, a dynamic of, I'm not sure, something doesn't feel right in my body, right? When it's love, you don't have that. When it's love, you don't question. When it's love, there's no hesitation. All right, sit on that. Sit on that because you gotta take it. And you don't. If you don't want to, that's between whatever. It's not I don't care. I'm saying my piece, and you stayed this far, so clearly you have some sort of inkling as to what I've got to say, which is neither here nor there, right? But these are things that are worth considering, at least to me, and I think that they've taken me so far in my life. So it's only going to help other people if I can share that forward. So that's what this space is. Um, and yeah, please, don't hesitate to let me know if there's any content or ideas or things that you want to expand on through this community. I'm here for all of it. Again, my name is Jessie. You can find me on Instagram at livingart.jc. All social media actually is that username. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you so much for being here. I love you.